Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Frederick Loewe's My Fair Lady, which I saw at the Nationaltheater Mannheim. And this was also performed in German, so the German translation was done by Robert Gilbert. The conductor was Matthew Toogood. The production and choreography were done by Helmut Baumann and Jörg Burt. The sets were done by Katrin Kegler-Fritsch. The costumes were done by Uta Loha and Conny Lüders. The lights were handled by Bernhard Häusermann. The dramaturgy was handled by Julia Gabriele Simon, and the chorus master was Dani Juris. My Fair Lady has got to be one of my most favorite musicals of all time. This also has a very, very special place in my heart because ever since I was 14 years old, I bought the DVD version of the movie starring Audrey Hepburn and Rex Harrison, and don't worry, I will definitely review the film version of My Fair Lady starring Audrey Hepburn and Rex Harrison in the near future. And I remember watching the absolute hell out of it. It was something that really captured me because of the great writing, the great characters, and let's not forget, the unforgettable music. From Wouldn't It Be So Loverly, to Let a Woman in Your Life, to Just You Wait, Henry Higgins, to With a Little Bit of Luck, and even Without You. And of course, let's not forget, the Ascot opening race hymn. These tunes were absolutely addictive to listen to because they really stuck with me well, and the entire musical, whether it be the original version with Julie Andrews and Rex Harrison, or the film version starring Audrey Hepburn and Rex Harrison, hold up really, really well. The reason why this particular musical also has a major place in my heart is because once upon a time, when I was a teenager of 15, I performed the role of Colonel Pickering in my first year high school production of My Fair Lady during one of our literary musical week productions. And this was definitely a very great moment because I was able to get a lot of the nuances, a lot of the character moments that really made Colonel Pickering the way he is, and I was able to kind of embody it to how I was playing this particular character, leading me to win a Best Supporting Actor for my efforts in that particular role. I was really, really happy at the time, and one can definitely say that that was definitely one of my best high school moments ever. Let's just say that the rest, I don't really want to talk about it. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about My Fair Lady at the Nationaltheater Mannheim. So the basic story of My Fair Lady goes like this. We have Eliza Doolittle, who is a young flower girl selling flowers, more specifically violets, outside the Covent Garden. And along comes Freddie Eynsford Hill, stumbling his way upon her, and he apologizes profusely. And in the background, we also see Henry Higgins taking a few notes of her, which are actually phonetic pronunciations of what she's truly saying. Eliza is at first annoyed by this, especially when Henry discusses to Colonel Pickering of how Eliza pronounces a lot of things in a very appalling manner. Eliza hopes to meet up with Henry Higgins once again. Henry decides to give her change. She is in hot pursuit of him because she wants to have lessons with him. Meanwhile, Eliza's father, Alfred P. Doolittle, kind of gets drunk off his ass and wants Eliza's fair share of the money she earned from selling flowers, even though he also has a job as a street sweeper. When Eliza arrives at Henry Higgins' house, Henry is at first annoyed by her presence. But Eliza is still quite determined for Henry to give her lessons. And even though the plan is settled, especially when there's a bet made by Colonel Pickering directed to Henry Higgins, that Henry Higgins claims that he can turn Eliza Doolittle, a lowly flower girl, into a noble woman. More specifically, something similar to that of a duchess. So Eliza and Henry set forth with a plan, albeit with a few difficulties. Eliza can't stand Henry's condescending behavior towards her, while Henry just can't stand Eliza's lowly Cockney, albeit in the German version, it's more of a Berlinerisch or Wienerish accent that she has, and he just can't really stand her accent in general and the way she pronounces certain words. So they're pretty much at odds with each other. This kind of also leads Eliza to fantasize of wanting to really do away with Henry Higgins. That is until one late night that Eliza says something in perfectly pronounced High English, though in the German version it's Hochdeutsch. The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain, though the version in Hochdeutsch is Es grünt so grün, wenn Spaniens Blüten blühen. And when you translate that, that is, it turns green when Spain's flowers bloom. Henry, Eliza, and Colonel Pickering are extremely ecstatic that they put her newfound skills of perfectly pronounced speech to the Ascot opening race. All goes well at first, that is until Eliza sneaks in some Cockney expressions, thus making the guests wonder, what on earth is this girl saying? And this kind of leaves Henry Higgins' mother, Mrs. Higgins, rather skeptical of what this girl is actually saying, or what does she mean by all of these things? And to kind of add insult to injury, Eliza places a bet on Dover, and when she wanted Dover to win, she screamed out, "Come on, Dover! Move your bloomin' arse!" Thus leaving all the guests, especially that of Mrs. Higgins, Colonel Pickering, and even Henry himself, all aghast at what she just said. Well, not Freddie, though. He is completely enamored with her. Henry Higgins and Colonel Pickering feel that the final test for Eliza will be the embassy ball. In that very ball, she communicates very, very well with all the nobility, especially that of Sultan Karpati, Higgins's former student and rival. Even though they greet each other rather cordially, they kinda hate each other's guts deep down, especially Henry. So when Sultan is introduced to Eliza, he is automatically convinced that Eliza is a Hungarian princess, thus impressing the likes of Henry and Colonel Pickering, and they are just completely ecstatic, all the while just forgetting about poor Eliza. Eliza feels rather used and manipulated by Henry, that she pretty much storms off, encounters Freddie once again, but she is so tired of Freddie's constant flowery and wordy flattery that she just wants Freddie to prove it to her that he truly cares about her and loves her. Meanwhile, Alfred P. Doolittle inherits a huge fortune left by an American millionaire, and he is then wed off to Eliza's new stepmother. Eliza feels kind of strange to the environment that she once lived in, and she just basically wants to depart that very scene along with her newfound paramour, Freddie, and she then leads herself off to Mrs. Higgins's place. Henry is very devastated when Eliza has gone missing, and he tries to phone Scotland Yard reporting that Eliza's missing, only for him to realize that Eliza is with his mother. And his mother is not really that fond of how Henry treated Eliza, especially when Eliza states to Henry that she is no longer his little experiment. She's her own person, and she's willing to marry Freddie. Henry is at first appalled by it, but he comes to realize that he was in love with her all this time. The musical ends kind of open-endedly when Eliza comes back to Henry, and let's just say that their relationship kind of rekindled. So one can definitely tell that this particular musical has left a major place in my heart. Not just because of the really wonderful songs, but as I stated before, I really love the story. I really love the characters, and I love the witty writing. What I noticed about the German version is that it's slightly different to the original English version. Like the rhyme used for Eliza The rain in Spain stays mainly on the plain is often quoted in English, but the German version uses "Es grünt so grün, wenn Spaniens Blüten blühen," which I found rather interesting. But nonetheless, whatever language I listened to this particular musical in, I had a lot of fun from beginning to end. Now, going into the production, I have to say that it was quite lovely to look at. I do like the way that the use of fog is being used in the outer areas of the covered garden, especially the marketplaces where Eliza sells her flowers and where she meets a lot of the other fellow flower girls and fruit sellers, and especially that of her father. I definitely love that foggy effect that it has. I also love the usage of lighting, especially when it's nighttime. It just looks really, really lovely. And the sets looked really, really nice, as if though some of them came out from a painting, and they're quite lovely to look at. And the costumes were really gorgeous to look at. Each of the costumes were visually stunning, and the people who made the costumes really did their research as to what these people wore, and they just had a lot of fun really finding out which designs suited well to which character and which didn't. So overall, the production and the costumes were quite lovely to witness, and it was just a very fun visual experience from beginning to end. And now we get to the singers and actors, starting off with our main heroine, Eliza Doolittle, sung by the German light lyric coloratura soprano Katharina Göres. Now, what you really need in this particular role is a singer who can specialize in a lot of ingenue characters or a lot of these soubrette-ish and really lovely and delicious characters. Surprisingly, Julie Andrews created the role of Eliza Doolittle when she first performed it in London alongside Rex Harrison, who was also the first Henry Higgins. This was also one of the roles that jettisoned a lot of sopranos' careers, including the likes of Edita Gruberova and Diana Damrau. Sopranos who sang this particular role pretty much went on to become coloratura sopranos. Heck, even Kiri Takanawa sang the role of Eliza Doolittle alongside Jeremy Irons' Henry Higgins. And my word, was Katharina Göres just lovely as Eliza Doolittle. First of all, she has a lithe, sleek, and really lovely physique, which makes her very ideal for all of these delicious ingenue characters. She was also quite athletic on stage, and she really moved like a dancer, which should be no surprise as she had a lot of dancing to do, especially in her opening number, Wouldn't It Be So Lovely, though in German it's Wäre det nicht so wunderschön. And she managed to sing her numbers very, very well. She was able to be saucy and spunky and very sparky in some moments when she had her Berlinerisch or Wienerisch accent. And when she spoke Hochdeutsch, she was able to be very calm, reserved, and ladylike, and quite girlish. And she really knew how to use the girlish nature of Eliza Doolittle to her advantage. And this has also helped wonderfully with her light, silvery, sweet, gorgeous, and lovely coloratura soprano voice. It should be no surprise that Katharina Göres has specialized in a lot of lyric coloratura soprano roles of that of Rosina from Barbiere di Siviglia, and the light soprano roles of that of Pamina from Zauberflöte, and even the more soubrette-ish roles like Naiade from Strauss's Ariadne of Naxos. So if there's anything else I could definitely say about Katharina Göres as Eliza Doolittle, it is this. She really stole the show as the titular heroine, and I could definitely tell that she had a lot of fun. Equally as wonderful was Axel Herrich's Professor Henry Higgins. And what you need for this particular character is a fine baritone sound. and especially when it comes to any performer who manages to really act well with his character. He basically has to play sarcasm masterfully. And at least in my opinion, that is what Rex Harrison did. That will definitely go into more detail of why his portrayal of Henry Higgins works in the film version of My Fair Lady when I make a review of this. Now, since Axel Herrera embodied this particular role, I thought he did a very great job. He was able to bring out some of the crazy moments that this character has, but at the same time he was able to make him quite human, thus really bringing in a gamut of emotions and a gamut of what really makes this character tick, what makes him laugh, what makes him feel the way he does at this moment. And one can tell that Herr Harris had a lot of fun portraying the role of Henry Higgins. Then we go to Colonel Pickering, sung and acted by Rolf Germeroth, who had a very fatherly presence on stage, and I thought that his voice was quite good. It was a very well-focused instrument, but more than anything, his acting was natural and down-to-earth. Pascal Harrington's Freddie Einsford Hill was really, really gorgeous. He had a youthful stage presence, and he sang very well. With his light lyric tenor voice and his boyish appearance, full of vivacity, full of charm, and full of lovability, though at the same time a little bit of naivete, he managed to make this particular role come alive. And at least in my opinion, he looked a little bit like Neil Patrick Harris, which should be no surprise as Neil Patrick Harris is also a tenor, and he also specialized in a lot of these youthful heroes or youthful supporting characters. So what more can I say about Pascal Harrington? He had a lovely, light lyric tenor voice, and he was just so wonderful as Freddie Einsford Hill. And we go to Joachim Gold singing the role of Eliza's father, Alfred P. Doolittle. And my word, did he have a ball with this particular role. I could definitely tell that Herr Goltz had a lot of fun embodying Alfred P. Doolittle, thanks to his versatile, dramatic baritone voice and his really great and very funny stage presence. We also get such wonderful performances from Gerda Maria Knauer's noble and quite hilarious Mrs. Einsford Hill, Petra Welteroth's concerned, motherly, and warm Mrs. Pierce, who also manages to be very hilarious to witness on stage, Katrin Becker's noble and lovely portrayal of Mrs. Higgins, and Karl Adolf Appel's blustery and fun-loving Zoltan Karpati. So overall, the singers and the actors were really, really great. They were able to play off of each other wonderfully, and I could definitely tell that they had a lot of fun. And the conducting done by Matthew Toogood was also great all around. And I also have to give loads of kudos to the dancers who were able to liven up the whole show. So overall, I was really, really happy when I saw this particular production of My Fair Lady. With a very lovely production, coupled by great singers and great actors, and fine conducting done by Maestro Toogood, this was definitely a great Easter Sunday that I spent at the Nationaltheater Mannheim. And for all of my former high school batchmates watching this, I wish you all a happy Easter. Think of this review as my Easter gift to you guys. I know that we didn't really have a lot of great moments in our high school years, but think of this review as my thank you gift, my Easter gift to all of you guys, and stay awesome. And for those of you who watched this particular production of My Fair Lady, what did you think of it? Was there a singer who stood out to you so much? Did you feel like the production was quite alluring to your eyes, or did you feel like there were certain elements that just didn't really hold up? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for my final Mannheim review, and that is of Wagner's Lohengrin, also at the Nationaltheater Mannheim, starring one of my most favorite singers of all time that I'm really excited to see, Frau Heike Wesses, singing the role of Ortrud. So until then, good night, everybody, and happy Easter!